Hello everybody, this is Gato. So today I will be discussing my topic about major plant hormones. So in major plant hormones, there are 5 hormones. First one is auxins, second one gibberellins, 3 cytokinins, number 4 ethylene, and 5 abscisic acid. Auxins are a powerful growth hormone produced naturally by plants. They are found in shoot and root tips and promote cell division, stem, and root growth. They can also drastically affect plant orientation by promoting cell division to one side of the plant in response to sunlight and gravity. Gibberellin or GA is one of the plant hormones that regulate a wide range of processes involved and also in plant growth, organ development, and environmental responses. This also includes seed germination, stem elongation, leaf expansion, transition to flowering, and the development of flowers, fruit, and seeds. Cytokinins are any of a number of plant hormones which influence growth and stimulation of cell division. Also, cytokinins are synthesized in roots and are usually derived from adenine. Ethylene is regarded as multifunctional phytohormone which regulates the growth and senescence. It also promotes or inhibits growth and senescence processes depending on its concentration, timing of application, and the plant species. The last one is abscisic acid. Abscisic acid or ABA is a plant hormone which regulates numerous aspects of plant growth, development, and stress responses. EBA deficient mutants from various plant species display reduced seed dormancy and wealthy phenotypes, highlighting that these crucial EBA functions are conserved in the plant kingdom.
So good day everyone, I am Lanurias, the second reporter of our group. So my topic is about the reproduction and germination. So, germination, which is defined as the growth of an embryonic tree contained within a seed. So seed germination depends on both internal and external conditions being just right to support seedling growth. Often this depends on the individual seed variety and is closely linked to the ecological conditions of a tree's natural habitat. When seeds are being formed, most trees store food as a reserve within the seed itself. The food consists of starch, proteins, and oils. So this food reserve provides nourishment to push the growth of an embryonic tree. And when the seed imbibes water, hydrologic enzymes are activated which break down these stored food resources into metabolically useful chemicals that will begin the growth process. So there will be enough food to keep the embryonic tree growing until the primary leaves and roots begin the process of photosynthesis, so growing on its own. So inducing germination. The most important external factors to induce germination include temperature, water, oxygen, and sometimes light or darkness. Various trees require different environmental trigger levels for successful seed germination. And temperature affects cell metabolism and growth rates. Seeds from different species and even seeds from the same tree germinate over a wide range of temperatures, and this temperature range limits when they will germinate and they will not those who above or below the preferred range. Then water is required for germination. Most seeds need enough water to moisten the seeds but not enough to soak them. So the uptake of water by seeds is called imbibition, which leads to the swelling of the food reserves within the seed, which causes the breaking of the seed pod. So mature seeds are often extremely dry and need to take insignificant amounts of water relative to dry weight of the seed before cellular metabolism and growth can begin. Then oxygen is required by the germinating seed for metabolism. Oxygen is used in aerobic respiration, the main source of the seedling's energy until it grows leaves. And oxygen is found in pore spaces between the particles of soil. And if a seed is buried too deeply within the soil or the soil is compacted or waterlogged, the seed can be oxygen starved and germination will be delayed. And the seed will also die from rot caused by oxygen deprivation if too much water occurs after the germination process has started. The light or darkness can be an environmental trigger for germination and is a type of physiological dormancy. Then most seeds are not affected by light or darkness, but many seeds, including species found in forest settings, will not germinate until an opening in the canopy allows sufficient light for growth of the seedling. So seed germination, all three species can reproduce by seeds. Each species has a unique set of requirements for seed production and germination. Seed dispersal strategies vary widely from wind-driven seeds such as an maple and trees to seeds falling underground beneath the trees such as nut tree, or to seeds carried away by certain species of animals or birds such as crabapple being eaten by a bird and the seeds are dropped some distance from the tree. So let's proceed to scarification. Any process of breaking, scratching, or altering the seed coat through mechanical, chemical, or thermal methods such as freezing over winter may be necessary to make the seed coat permeable to water and oxygen. This process is known as scarification. Then some seeds have impermeable seed coats that prevent oxygen and water from entering the seed, causing a type of physical dormancy which is broken when the seed coat is worn away enough to allow gas exchange and water uptake from the environment. So in nature, some seeds require particular conditions to germinate, such as the heat of a wildfire or soaking in a body of water for a long period of time. And others need to be passed through a bird or animal's digestive tract to weaken the seed coat enough to allow the embryonic tree to emerge. Then for mechanical scarification, seed coats can be filed with a metal file, rubbed with sandpaper, nicked with a knife, or cracked gently with a hammer to weaken the seed coat. And scarification of seeds can also be achieved by imbibing them in concentrated sulfuric acid and appropriate concentrations and durations of treatment. And another scarification method involves the use of hot water for brief periods. Then, the breaking dormancy. Some leaf seeds are dormant and need more time or need to be subjected to specific environmental conditions before they will germinate. A good example is when a wildfire hits a cone and ejects the seed ready to germinate without competition from the burned forest trees. Seed dormancy can originate in different parts of the seed. The dormancy breaking often involves changes in membranes, then initiated by certain hormones, notably abscisic acid, which inhibits germination, and gibberellin, which ends seed dormancy.
Good day everyone, my name is Polina from BSF 2A. Today, I will tackle to you our report which is tree physiology. So let's tackle my topic which is tree root physiology. The development of a root system is dependent upon the tree, genetics, and the soils and the environment. Root physiology is the ability of the roots to sense the environment and adjust accordingly. Roots develop internally rather than from buds that occur on stems and the parts of the tree above the ground. Next is root parts. To do this, the root has several parts summarized below. They are listed from the youngest part of a root to the oldest. Next is vegetative reproduction. Besides seeds, trees can be propagated with the assistance of mankind. Next is cultivars, are propagated by grafting a bud or stem of the parent tree onto a seedling rootstock of the species. Next is clones, are propagated by encouraging roots to develop on cuttings of the parent tree. Next is sprouts and suckers. Start with the dormant buds that come alive to form new shoots of the parent trees. Sprout are shoots from stump of a tree. Sucker are shoots that originated from buds on the root system. Both sprouts and suckers have the potential to grow into new full-size trees genetically identical to the parent. Oftentimes, sprouts and sucker will not grow until the parent tree dies or becomes very sick or suffer from a severe injury. The buds are held in dormancy by hormones produced in the leaves. When these hormone levels drops below a certain point because of increased light level as the old tree thins its branches and leaves, the dormant buds begin to grow. Next is vegetative layering. Vegetative layering is an uncommon form of a vegetative propagation. When branches or stems come into contact with the soil, the cambion tissue sometimes will form roots. In this way, former branches might become a trunk or several new trees genetically identical to the parent. Last is tissue culture. Is an invention of modern science to extract cells of desirable trees and grow these cells into trees within laboratory conditions. Trees from this process are genetically identical to the parent.
Good day everyone, this is Kimberly A. Majestrado, and in this video, I'm going to tackle about tree root physiology. The development of a root system is dependent upon the tree genetics, the soils, and the environment. Root physiology is the ability of the roots to sense the environment and adjust accordingly. So roots develop internally rather than from buds that occur on stems and the other parts of the tree above the ground. To do this, the root has several parts summarized below. So they are listed from the youngest part of a root to the oldest. So the first one is root cap. This part of the root is at its very tip. The cap protects the tip of the root as it is forced through the soil by the elongating root tissue behind it. So the tip has sensors that can detect rocks and other obstacles in its path growth. So ang root cap is type siya of tissue at the tip of a plant root. So it is also called calyptra. So root cap contains statocytes which are involved in gravity perception in plants. So if the cap is carefully removed, the root will grow randomly. So the root cap protects the growing tip in plants. So the next one is apical meristem. This part of the root provides the cells for the root cap in front and for the region of elongation behind this area. So the sensors will cause the apical meristem to change directions of growth to avoid an obstacle in its path. So region of cells capable of division and growth in the root and shoot tips in plants. So ang apical meristems naghatag siya rise sa primary plant body and responsible para sa extension of the roots and shoots. So the next one is region of elongation. Cells in their fixed positions elongate to reach mature dimensions in the region of elongation. A special cell called the vacuole plays a major role in this process. It uses water pressure to push against the walls of cells to stretch the cellulose fibers in the new cells to make them elongate and push the cap through the soil. So, ang region of elongation, it is where the newly formed cells increase in length, so thereby lengthening the root. So, beginning at the first root is the zone of cell maturation, where ang root cells begin to differentiate into special cell types. So, the next one is region of root hairs. It is in this area where cells develop a more mature form and change into the epidermis and the cortex. So, root hairs are found only in the zone of maturation, as I've said earlier. So, it is also called the zone of differentiation. So, they are not found in the zone of elongation, possibly because older root hairs are sheared off as the root elongates and moves through the soil. So the next one is rhizosphere. So the thin layer of soil that sticks through roots is called the rhizosphere. It is the zone about 1 millimeter in width surrounding the epidermis of living root hairs that contains millions more soil microorganisms than anywhere else in the soil. So, ang rhizosphere, it is the zone of soil surrounding a plant root where the biology and chemistry of the soil are influenced by the root. So, as plant roots grow through soil, they mostly release water-soluble compounds such as amino acids, sugars, and organic acids that supply food for the microorganisms. And last one is the mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae are beneficial fungi to trees. Mycorrhizal fungi are naturally occurring fungi that prefer the soil in the forest. Mycorrhizae are not exactly a root, and they are not exactly a fungus. They fall halfway between. So they are important because they form a symbiotic relationship with a tree's roots, and they act as extension of the roots. So they translocate nutrients and moisture back to the root for absorption and used by the tree. In exchange, the tree provides the fungus with the carbohydrates, vitamins, and amino acids from photosynthesis. So, ang mycorrhizae permits the plant to obtain additional moisture and nutrients. So, this is particularly important in uptake of phosphorus. So, one of the major nutrients required by plants. When mycorrhizae are present, plants are less susceptible to water stress. So, that would be all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I'm Rose Mrs. Sala and now I will discuss about the tree trunk physiology. The trunk supports the crown and holds the leaves up to the light to allow photosynthesis to occur. A tree and the cells support an ever-flowing wet system that must be maintained at all times. If the process fails to provide water at any point, the tree will eventually die due to the failure of both water and food requirements that are necessary for life. The roots are bathed in a nutrient-rich liquid which transport these nutrients plus moisture to the top of the tree, where it is all consumed during photosynthesis. The tree trunk has to expand in diameter as the tree grows in its search for moisture and sunlight. So trunk is the stem and the main wooden axis of a tree. which is an important feature in the tree identification, and which often differs markedly from the bottom of the trunk to the top depending on the species. The trunk is the most important part of the tree for timber production. Most of a tree trunk is dead, woody tissue and serves only to support the weight of the crown. The trunk is a highly ordered arrangement of living, dying, and dead cells. Outer bark. The outer bark is a layer of dead cells which protects and covers the layer of living cells of the cambium. Bark is a tree's natural armor and protects it from internal threats. Bark also have several physical functions. One is deposing the tree of waste by absorbing them and locking them into its dead cells and resents in the bark. The bark also influences light passage. It regulates gas exchange. It recognizes and defends against pathogens. It controls tree temperature and many other things that contribute to the survival of the tree. Bark textures are relatively uniform according to tree species, and the bark makes a great visual marker for tree identification. Bark textures are divided into at least 18 types that range from smooth like beech or fagos to spiny like a locust or robinia. The outer bark is the tree's protection from the outside world, continually renewed from within. It helps keep out moisture in the rain and prevent the tree from losing moisture when the air is dry. It insulates against cold and heat and wards off insect enemies. Next is the inner bark or core cambium. This tissue occupies the space between the outer bark and the phloem tissue, and is called the core cambium layer. This is the layer that generates new bark. In the roots, the cambium tissue may store sugars to starches to foil the spring sap flow. In leaves, the cambium tissue is the monosphere cells doing photosynthesis. So the inner bark or core cambium, the inner soft bark or bast is produced by the vascular cambium. It consists of secondary phloem tissue whose innermost layer conveys food from the leaves to the rest of the plant. Core cambium is a lateral meristem and is responsible for secondary growth that replaces the epidermis in roots and stem. Phloem. Phloem, next to the inner bark, develops from the outside layer of the cambium and is the food tract to the roots. Phloem carries large quantities of manufactured food or sugars that are transported from leaves toward roots. When the tree is healthy and growing and sugar are abundant, where extra sugar are stored in the form of starch, which can be converted back into sugars and moved by the phloem to where it is needed in the tree. So phloem is a thin layer of living cells and is responsible for transporting food around the tree. Large amount of sugar travel down the phloem to the roots. Sugar may also travel up to the phloem to the other parts of tree that need energy for growth and maintenance. And lastly is the cambium. The cambium and its zone is a cell generator, reproductive tissue called growth meristem that produce both the inner bark cells of the phloem and new living wood cells in the xylem. The cambium is a watery layer, only a few cells thick. So cambium is a thin layer of living tissue found between the xylem and phloem of vascular plants that manufactures the new cell in the secondary growth. Cambium cells are parallel to each other and they encircle the stem or trunk. The cambium layer produces secondary xylem and phloem cells. So here are the image of three trunk layers: the outer bark, phloem, cambium, and there are also sapwood or the xylem and heartwood. So that's all. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is my report. Xylem. Xylem, plant vascular tissue that conveys water and dissolved minerals from the roots to the rest of the plant and also provides physical support. Xylem tissue consists of variety of specialized water-conducting cells known as tertiary elements. Hardwood. It is also called the recommended central wood of trees. Its cells usually contain tannins or other substances that make it dark in color and sometimes aromatic. Heartwood is mechanically strong, resistant to decay, and less easily penetrated by wood preservative chemicals than other types of woods. Symplast. The symplast of a plant is the inner side of the plasma membrane in which water and low molecular weights solutes can freely diffuse. Symplast cells have more than one nucleus or the connection made between cells by the cytoplasmatic connection of plasmodesmata is called symplast. Vessels and trached. Trached and vessels are the components of the complex xylem tissue. Both help in conduction of water along the stem and provide mechanical support to the plant. Both cells are tubular. Secondary lignification is present in both cells. They become dead on the maturity. Apical dominance is the phenomenon whereby the main central stem of the plant is dominant over, grows more strongly than other stems. On a branch, the main stem of the branch is further dominant over its own side twigs. So that's all. Thank you for listening.